Open the meeting with the planning board on, what month is this, June? June 11th? 10th, okay, yes. Yesterday I was a day early, today I'm a day late. Have a motion to approve the public meeting minutes of May 13th.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes from
Do I have a second?
May 13th.
Second. Any further discussion of the minutes? I see or see none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. It's approved. Next thing on the agenda, well, I've got to start with this, excuse me. Announcement of open meeting recordings. Any person may make a video or audio recording of an open meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium, subject to reasonable requirements of the chair as to the number, placement, and operation of equipment used so as not to interfere with the conduct of the meeting. Any person intending to make such a recording shall notify the chair forthwith. All documents referenced or used during the meeting must be submitted in duplicate to the Director of Community Planning, Demand Development, and Planning pursuant to open meeting public records law. All documents shall become part of the official record of the meeting. Is anyone here other than the city recording? No, I see none. So we'll continue. First item on the agenda, definitive site plan, Stevenson A. Emerald Street project. Would you please state your name and address and who you represent?
Stephen Senni, I'm the proposed builder.
Okay,
And Greg Roy with Dilson Roy, Civil Design Group. Thanks for your time this evening.
okay.
We were here 2 months ago to open the process. At the time, I think Rob had just submitted or just finished doing his review, which we didn't have a chance to do prior to that meeting. And we pushed it out another meeting to give us time. We had finished that, doing the initial response to his comments, but it was only a day before your last meeting, so we asked to continue that. So we, in response to the comments that we received, we did do a plan revision, which is the plan that's before you, which was intended to be responsive to those comments. Rob did issue a follow-up memo here a day or so ago, June 9th. With a couple of outstanding items on that. I don't want us to put words into Rob's mouth. I'm sure Rob will probably highlight those. I guess I generally wanted to say that I don't think we find any of these really problematic. I think we have some more information to give him on the drainage, a few more calculations on the sizing and some of the stormwater pipes, some TSS and phosphorus calculations. Some of his comments fall in the category of suggested conditions, which we certainly don't object to. And we wouldn't, I don't think, object to if the board saw fit to accepting all of them as conditions, if that's the way that you saw fit to do that. And I guess I wanted to talk about, I think Steve passed around a plan to you here that I wanted to talk about. The planner, Jason, issued a memo as well recommending that the board consider a traffic study for the project. We're not suggesting that it's not your prerogative to require a traffic study, but we wanted to suggest that perhaps we could suggest a solution that might get us a little bit, might be in response to what some of the concerns are, I think, with the traffic, parking, particularly on the street, without having to go through a traffic study for a project of this size. And I wanted to just present what's on the plan. We prepared this plan just today, because we got the memo just today.
If I can
Go ahead.
interject,
Sorry.
We did a site visit with the abutters and the ZBA on Saturday. And this was the result of, part of the result of that conversation with them was to kind of adjust some of our driveway layout.
Yeah, thanks, Steve, sorry. Appreciate that. I wasn't at the sidewalk, so I appreciate that commentary. What we tried to do here is to reshape the openings, consolidate the openings further on both of the driveways. We've actually flipped this unit to the same location, but we've mirrored the garages essentially so that we can consolidate those down to a narrower curb cut, and which allows us to preserve parking spaces. So we estimate approximately, well, when you do the measurement of the frontage we have and you apply the standards for parallel parking spaces, there's room for about 8 spaces across the front of that. We've preserved with this plan a spot here, 2 spots here, and a spot there. So you would have effectively 4 spaces. You'd be going down from 8 spaces to 4 spaces. So you lose, some spaces, in the where the driveways would be. But we thought this at least came some of the way back towards preserving and being responsive to some of the comments that we heard. I guess the other thing we wanted to point out with this is that we could do, I think, duplexes here as a matter of right. So we could do, there could be 2 duplexes here, and you'd have the driveways anyway. They might be a little bit narrower, but you'd be losing some spaces for driveways. Even if you did 2 single-family homes, you'd be losing some spaces for the driveways. So I think that this might be a net of a space or 2 if you were to compare it with what could be done by right there. And we wanted to propose that as a possible solution for your consideration this evening. Am I missing anything? So I wanted to be pretty brief. I certainly didn't want to put any words in Rob's mouth. If Rob wanted to give, we acknowledge his comments. We don't have any concerns with them. We will be certainly following up with that, with the additional information that he's requesting. We don't have any concerns with the proposed conditions that he suggested. And I think that's where I wanted to stop with my opening remarks, and happy to take any questions or comments.
Well, I appreciate you guys getting a revised plan, especially with my comment in regards to the parking lost. I would just ask if the abutters who are here, who had posed that as a comment, if they had any further. This is a public hearing here, so if it's okay with the chair to open for comments from the abutters in regards to this, because this was mainly one of their concerns.
There's an improvement, it's gone from 0 spaces available to park, and you're giving us 4 back.
I'm just wondering about one of the spaces. The first one is actually, there's a fire plug.
Yeah, we show that actually.
Okay.
That's right there.
Okay.
And we have a sort of 10-foot offset from that, and you still have the space available there. So we did take that into account, yeah. And of course, with the driveways, the vehicles that would be added to the area would be off-street. So it wouldn't be further increasing the issue of on-street parking, because we have at least 2 spaces off-street parking for each of the units.
That sounds much better. Oh, looks much better.
I definitely agree.
I guess it's okay if they never have visitors.
It depends on which one. Some of the driveways that the houses are getting are
Yeah.
going to be much longer just because of the change.
Right, you get.
I mean, but they'll have, yeah. It's more of a jest than.
No, I understand. Yeah, no, I understand. The shortest driveways are 30 feet from the front of the garage to the right-of-way.
Mhm.
So you actually have a little bit more space when you take into account the driveway. Of course, there's a sidewalk in there. But, you have a pretty, depends on the size of the vehicle. Whether you could actually fit even 2 in some of these driveways. I think you could definitely fit 2 here plus the garage. So
Yeah.
probably 3 here. Probably have 2 there. You might have 3 here. 3 here, you know, so I think.
About 3, yeah. Yeah, I don't think, for losing 4 parking spaces, I don't think my recommendation for a traffic study would still be needed, especially for a change that small. I mean,
Yeah,
Well, especially when you compare it to the by right, you know,
yeah,
if you compare it to what we could do sort of not being here,
yeah.
you know, it would,
Yep.
it's even a further.
yeah.
So I appreciate you guys
Yeah.
reworking it,
Sure.
especially for the
agree.
abutters and for the community around there.
Yeah. Any questions from the board?
No, that answers my question. I had the same thing.
Board,
Question,
do you want to add anything to discussion that's going on relative to the drain stormwater?
I mean, as Greg said, there's no major issues, just some kind of cleanup stuff. I mean, I have no real issue with addressing them after tonight's meeting. They are revising, it looks like the board's, you know, okay with the change that they're suggesting to the driveway, so I think you're gonna have to see a revised plan anyway. Not that I wanna hold you guys up, but I would just say you might as well get everything all at once. Again, if it were approved tonight, I still think we could work with the applicant on making sure everything's done, but I think, I mean, you'd wanna see this come in on a plan as a revision, so. I think I'd prefer to see you have everything come in all at once.
I would too.
seems like there's a number of stormwater items to be addressed still too, right? Are there any plans for additional BMPs to get the additional 5% of TSS that's needed?
Well, yeah, we have to look at that. We may have to add something to do that, but we don't see that as an issue, you know.
Is the separation to groundwater from the bottom of stone exactly 2 feet? on the-
Again, we have to study that a little bit. I see that comment. I don't have that walkthrough plan, so, I think it's right in this corner, if I'm not mistaken, where the grades kind of.
About a third of the system from what it looks like to me, just because of the slope,
Yeah.
and you're going into the slope.
Yeah.
You don't meet your groundwater offset in that kind of end of the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to work on that. I don't know if it's a different arrangement of the chambers. or-
Yeah, probably either a different arrangement, or we'll do another test pit over there and see what we have. I mean, I don't know. We might have a level table down there, I don't know.
Did we, was he able to get that information when we did the test pits?
Well, we have a test hole here. The issue is, Steve, that, you know, when you assume that it's a slope water table, you kind of follow the grades, and the grades go up over here, you know, so. But anyway, I think either way, we can address it, either by reconfiguring this or by doing a little bit more excavation out there to document that it's not an issue in that corner, in that high corner. Either way.
Probably want to see a mounting analysis too, just since it's less than 4 feet of separation, even if you
Okay,
have
yeah.
a minimum 2.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else, guys?
Just last comment on the stormwater, see that the peak rates are increasing to design point A under the 2-year storm and to B under the 25 and 100-year storms.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility of a little bit of additional attenuation to reduce those flows?
I can't remember what the number was. Was it pretty?
The 2-year is pretty low, the
Yeah.
25 and,
Sometimes you have trouble with those.
Yeah, I think,
In doing the largest, I don't know, sometimes it's hard to.
so one of those design points is to the city storm system.
yeah.
And I think they analyzed the capacity and showed that we have adequate capacity, just because there's only a couple of catch basins that come down to it. That's why I looked at that, I considered it. There was a minor increase on the 2-year storm, like you noted. Which if you reconfigure and you move things around.
Well,
you
certainly,
may-
we always look to get it less, but
Yeah.
sometimes you have one of those storm events, and particularly if it's the more frequently occurring events and it's really de minimis, you're talking about model numbers here too, so, you know, it's
Yeah, 0.05, so not,
for those, yeah.
You do have the opportunity for more crushed stone under the system because you're in fill, so maybe.
Yeah, it's true, we could
Keep
see.
a little bit more
get a
storage in
little
the base.
Storage, yeah, we could do that. certainly things we'll clean up and address.
Okay,
Anything else? Well,
any more comments?
I guess I do have one maybe. During the building process, what's the estimated time for the building process?
We haven't even gotten that far yet. I would say, if I was gonna guess, 12 months.
And what kind of heavy equipment is gonna be used?
Whatever is necessary to get the job done.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's gonna
It-
be.
Yeah, excavator, small equipment. you know.
But, but the excavation would be faster. Well, I mean, so, you know, you dig the foundation, do the site work obviously first, so, you know, that's I would
It's
imagine.
like the tree removal and stuff that you need big equipment to.
Yeah, and then probably, once the foundation's in, you're into frame, smaller equipment for the restoration.
When I see
process.
those trees gone, I'm gonna be a happy guy, so. Living a nightmare.
And the trash and the, yeah, I mean, that's one thing about doing a project like this, on a site like this, is trash gets resolved, right?
Okay,
I definitely want to meet you guys as well in the middle, I think, because we don't want you drafting up these new plans for next meeting and then having to wait for the approval conditions for the following. So if it'd be amenable to meet in the middle there and have, work with you guys in terms of drafting the approval conditions.
Makes sense. So you'd say we have a draft,
Next
but we
meeting.
could, and we'd be more or less ready to kind of
Yep.
ink the thing at the next meeting?
Yeah, so that way we're not pushing this out 2 meetings.
Yeah, that would be.
It's the same as we did with the
Okay.
Naked Drive
yeah,
self-storage.
Yeah, I think we have a short list, and yeah, that sounds good to us. I appreciate that, thank you
Yeah.
for that.
Of course.
And there is a July meeting, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
yeah, we don't take vacations.
Me either, that's why I was asking.
If there's business, we don't take vacations.
There's always business.
Okay,
So we're basically kind of,
we're gonna revise for this layout and address the remaining comments for Rob, and
and then it's,
that's what I'm hearing.
okay.
And we'll correspond in terms of the conditions for approval.
draft that we can review, so it's kind of nice in the public hearing, because we can then comment on the draft.
Does, we have, just for context, we have a ZBA meeting for next week. Is there a way to, I'm gonna kind of maybe say stuff, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to or not, but if you're agreeable with this parking layout, we would have no problem kind of revising that plan, hopefully, before the ZBA meeting for next week, so that they can see a clean driveway plan as part of their approval.
I have no issue with that.
No,
Okay.
That's a good idea.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
It's best that they see it the way that we would be then providing the approval
Yeah,
conditions for.
was the ZBA asking for the plan board's input in that
I,
configuration?
it's kind of a,
Yeah,
one of these things, somebody's gotta go first, so
Yeah.
if we have kind of an agreeable parking plan, parking layout, I'm more than happy to move forward with the engineer to get that on paper and present a very clean copy to the ZBA for whatever requirements they'll have for an approval at next week's meeting.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay.
great.
Need a motion to bring this public meeting to a close?
Do we want to?
No, we want to continue it for.
Motion to
Oh, until,
continue the public hearing to the
hearing.
July
until
8th
July?
meeting?
Yes.
Okay, we'll continue till July.
Okay,
All right.
Very good.
Second. Someone
First, second.
Make a motion, we continue the public meeting
Okay.
until July.
Eric seconded.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys again.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's quite a change.
And it gives them 4 parking places, which makes a lot of sense. Wait 10 minutes, the regular meeting.
No, we have another presentation. Ready for the presentation on the multifamily slate. Are they here?
We'll take these out of order and move to new business.
Oh, we're on
First
new
item.
business?
Yeah, just because it's out of order.
We're here for the conceptual.
Oh, okay.
The
We're
first,
ready for that.
Okay.
I don't have the benefit of a tripod or an easel, so I'm not sure whose microphone this is. Easel? And I do have some little larger handouts. Oh, you all have, okay, very good. Thank you. My name is Peter Campobasso. I'm an attorney from Leominster. My office is at 3 Park Street in Leominster, Mass. I represent Harbor Classic Homes, who is presenting this conceptual plan for a senior development over 55 in the city, under the bylaw provision. We're presenting this tonight to give you a conceptual design, try to get a little feedback. There was a development review meeting last week sometime.
Yeah, last week.
We did get some comments from that, but I understand the process that needs to be followed. We would have to submit an application for a special permit and a site plan. So what the proposed development consists of is 90 duplex buildings. It's one building with 2 units. Different roadways leading from Clark Street and Century Way with an entrance in, obviously entrances in and out, with the duplex buildings dispersed throughout the development. It also has a clubhouse community center that's in the middle of the majority of the houses. You can see it with an extended driveway. And on the bottom right, under section 4, that tabulation calculates for the board what's required under the bylaw provision and what is proposed. And based on what's required, the proposal that's before you meets all of them, exceeds most of them based on the number of units, the amount of open space, coverage, and items of that nature. So the project is clearly within the bylaw regulations, and there will be certain amenities that go along with the community. My understanding is that this would be a homeowner-type association where the roadways and the amenities are maintained by the HOA. And because of that, to build a project of this nature and include all of the amenities, to make it economically viable, you need units, obviously. But it wasn't just the meeting with the Development Review Board. My clients have been very involved with the city of Gardner for this particular site. There was a previous proposal for a different type of open space development.
Yeah.
But based on ongoing discussions that they've had with the city, the different departments, the planning, the mayor's office, our understanding is that this type of an over 55 development is something that the community does need. We've received positive feedback from others in the city that this is something that would be well received, and obviously there's a need in the community. So this is the intended plan that we will file. We just wanted to get some further feedback from the planning board members.
Initially, I say, like I said at the review meeting, it's crowded. And just for the sake of this meeting, we were concerned about the roadway, the width of the roadway. Some of the corners are too sharp for fire emergency vehicles. And whether the turnarounds at the cul-de-sacs are large enough for access for emergency vehicles. Mostly the tower truck,
Okay,
and there's an emergency truck the fire department has that's quite large. So we're concerned, we would be concerned about that. And I would say you definitely need to coordinate with the fire chief.
yes, one thing I would like to, I understand the concern, but I'm sure that that would be addressed because the design does take into consideration the city's subdivision regulations and how you want certain things designed. Since these will be private roadways, some of those requirements were minimized, but you're looking at a plan that is a certain scale, so it's very difficult to, perception-wise, understand how wide it really is. And I think once we get into the application and the different department heads review it, based on communications with the fire department, with the police department, we'll be able to establish that those particular vehicles will have ample room to make their turning radii and all that stuff work, so that there wouldn't be any type of a potential safety hazard or something along that line.
I just want to make sure that it's noted and discussed.
Yep, absolutely, thank you.
The main thought I have, and I do appreciate you having all of the conditions that are included in the bylaws in terms of open space percentages, building coverages, and proposed densities. The concern I have is when we get to conversations where we have a public meeting and we have abutters attending those meetings, because if we have, say, 180 units, conservatively at 1.5 cars average per unit, so that's anywhere, or 1.5 to 2, let's say. So that's anywhere from 270 vehicles to 360 for the proposed. If we want to go very conservatively, we can go all the way down to 180, but I think that's where the conversation about the density of the units, and I understand the need to make it economically viable as well in terms of the density of the units and the amount of units needed for the the development. But when we get to the conversation about traffic and any proposed hazards, either on or off-site being the right-of-ways for the existing abutters, that's where my concerns are mainly going to be held, because you are following the bylaws with this development. But when we get to those conversations, that's where similarly to the last
Yeah,
we just met.
I think the applicant is familiar with the area, obviously, with the prior proposal and the different issues that were raised. Traffic studies, traffic impact studies were done. We understand that would have to be updated, obviously, to take into consideration this
Yep.
development.
Yes.
So some of those anticipated issues, concerns will be addressed by the applicant, yeah.
Okay.
Anything, Eric? Paul?
Yeah, so again, this comes before us, and 2 years ago, 1 year ago, I'm the one who made the suggestion that open space was not originally, if you look at the whole plan and what they built, you would only be able to build 49 single homes, the whole compromise for the land. they have this special open space, and they're doubling it. Even so, it was never meant. Open space was never meant to double the amount of housing. It was for the developers in the city to at least protect some land, give it back to the city, and they would let the developer build as many lots on half the parcel. So if you're only allowed to build 49 on the overall picture, that's all that should be built on this open space. It'd be less driveway, less road that the developer had to do, less sewer, water, lighting. If you look at this, it's like, I'm not too sure, like you said, I'm not too sure what the spacing is between the two houses.
20 feet.
It's 20 feet.
20 feet. I mean, you'd be hard enough trying to put a picnic table lengthwise going by there. You know, again, that was my objection the first time. That open space was never meant to double up the housing. It was meant to put the same amount, roughly, housing that was allowed on the general residential or whatever we're doing. But it was never meant to put 90 duplex or 180. It was, and I had mentioned that last year, the year and a half ago. So that's my only, I believe it's too dense. And we were narrowing it down before with the other people, but now we're back up to considerably a lot of housing here. So I believe the open space concept it's kind of being not really nice, I guess you could say the word. The developers is kind of taking advantage of this thing. That's my concern, that it's just too dense. That's all I have to say about that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Just for your sake, Paul, at the review meeting, we did address the trails that are there, so they're aware that they have to take care of those trails, incorporate them.
In these bottom ones, I'm not too sure, there's a rock wall there, I'm not too sure if he's against the rock wall, looks like they moved it even closer. I don't know if you see there was a boundary of, on Century behind these homes right here. There was a rock wall that went all the way, so I'm not too sure if they're ruining the rock wall, I can't see so that was a boundary, it was a boundary of rock wall made way back then.
Looks like they're bringing them right up to the wall.
Yeah, I can't tell.
So under the proposed plan that you're viewing, under the bylaw, it requires a 30-foot buffer on abutting property lines. What's proposed is 50 feet as a buffer, so there's a little bit extra. All of the buildings are within Harbor Classics land. Nothing is encroaching on neighboring property, but they do comply with the buffer requirement. And as I said, it's under this particular bylaw provision, the requirement would be 30 feet. What's proposed is 50 feet. So it's a little bit extra.
Right, I just can't see where the boundary of that rock wall is. That's all. So.
And the rock wall would not be a boundary between their land.
No, it's not a boundary, but.
In a butter's land, it would
Right,
just be a
but
rock
it is-
wall
it
that's
is
on the
a-
property. It's a rock wall.
Yeah.
And just, there's two aspects, if I may.
Sure.
I understand the concern about the open space, but there's more to this provision than just trying to propose an open space development where you maintain the open space land and you condense where the structures are located. Under this particular section, it's open space and lot coverage. And believe it or not, with the different types of housing that's proposed, whether it be single-family homes, duplex homes, townhouses, multifamily buildings, I know this probably won't be well received, but what would be allowed is approximately 350 to 360 units, if I did my calculations correctly. So what's being proposed is approximately half of what the bylaw proposes for single-family and duplex homes. Because it's 2 units per, it's 4 units per acre. When you get into townhouse units, it's 8 units per acre. So you could substantially increase, you might reduce structures, but you would obviously be increasing the density. So what's proposed before you is actually half of what is allowed under the city bylaw. And even though they're duplex buildings, you probably should view this as, if we were doing single-family homes, even with single-family homes, depending on the number, because what was proposed before was, I think, approximately 76. You still have 90 buildings with this conceptual design. So building-wise, it's not that big of an increase, but because it's duplex units, you're getting 2 units in one building. And that increases the number of actual units that are available. So from an open space standpoint, the open space provision, I think what would be required is 23 acres. There's, I think, almost 26 acres. And as far as the lot coverage is concerned, I believe the requirement is 23%, and there's only like a 25% coverage, or vice versa. I can't remember, but they exceed those requirements under the bylaw provision. So
Is the area kind of in the middle here, is that factored into the, as open space as well, or is that not considered open space in the calculations? The area in between this?
that is probably considered open space because it will be belonging to the HOA, and that's where the community building will be. So, yes.
And that's where the trails
Yeah,
is in the center area there.
yeah, there are trails interspersed throughout this.
You guys have the sidewalk
project.
already in the plan.
Yes, yeah. And the intent is to lay this out and design it so that the trails connect and they go throughout the entire site.
Would there be intent to provide public access to the trail network, or would it be exclusively for residents?
That was the intention the last time, because I think the land that's up in the back, up in here,
Land trust.
that goes to where the land trust, yes, I believe that that's the intention. There are different connector trails on either side of the far end, the closer you get to the water and the conservation land.
What is the frontage on the properties of the proposed buildings?
The frontage,
Yes,
I believe the frontage is, I believe the requirement is 30 feet.
Mhm. It is.
depth, width-wise,
I think the width is 15 feet, the requirement. The distance between these buildings is 20 feet.
okay. The property itself for each unit, each duplex, is it 100-foot road frontage?
Well, this isn't a subdivision, so
Okay.
this would be approved as a site plan.
Correct.
So it's actually just one parcel of land. So the frontage is actually on Clark Street and on Century Way.
I see.
Versus, because if this is presented, my understanding is the roadways will not be, they will not be transferred over to the city of Gardner to be public ways. Therefore, the frontage on a site plan, this is not being subdivided. It'll be one lot, which the HOA will own. And then based on a condominium declaration, the individual units will be sold off as condominium units. So that you're not dealing with each lot having to meet single-family residential or two-family residential or those type of zoning regulations.
By keeping it under the HOA.
Under the 55 and older, when you look at the very end, the procedures that are required, an applicant would have to submit an application for a special permit and an application for site plan review and approval. So that's the process that we have to follow, not subdivision. And the applicant is in the process of building a similar community of this nature, an over 55 development in Rutland, Mass, which has been under construction last year. We weren't able to put together a complete visual to hook up and demonstrate, but we do have an example of what type of duplex unit is being proposed, and what they look like, to at least give you a visual as best we can tonight, looking at pictures, so.
I would say, yeah, as my job here, it's to make sure that the bylaws are followed, and by the letter of our bylaws, as you've said multiple times, you are following all of our bylaws. That being said, like I said, when we get to public meetings, in terms of any negotiation that you and the applicant are willing to have with the abutters, in terms of the density, because that's what the planning board is saying. I can already tell you from my experiences that that's what the abutters are gonna say. And, you know, that's, again, all the bylaws are being followed, but
I think what you'll find is, based on my client's past involvement, their track record, my experience with them, they're very proactive with meeting the community. The last time through, we did have meetings with the residents. When we did site walks, we did allow the residents to participate. We did have talks with them, with certain people after meetings, so that won't be an issue. I'm sure we'll be able to address the public and address the resident concerns. Part of the process, we won't shy away from that.
thank you. Would the proposed developments also have garage parking as well? I know that's,
I
I'm just
think
looking at
the garage would actually be able to house 2 vehicles stacked.
Okay.
More than likely, depending on how the garage is used, maybe 1 vehicle would be. I think what we're finding is a lot of these units are actually occupied by one person versus 2, and a lot of the vehicles would be 1. I'm not saying that's what the marketplace is in Gardner, but if it were a 2 occupied unit, there's ample parking in the parking garage itself. If the garage were used as a tool room, storage room, or something along that nature, maybe 1 vehicle in the garage, 1 vehicle in the driveway.
These are slab construction, right? There are no saws?
No, they'll be basements. It's a nice unit.
oh, all
It's a
units
very
will have
nice,
basements?
it's a very nice building, it's a
All
very
have
good
basements?
structure. Yes.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
we started our concept in Rutland on
Yeah.
slabs, and we changed it to basements. Because that was more on the market, more people wanted. So that's what we went to.
And what we like about this design is that the front elevation isn't all garage. You know, it's still a 2-car garage, which people really wanted, and it looks nice from the outside. We've got front porches, covered porches, back patios or back decks, and it's a lifestyle community, so you know, people who are there aren't so interested in the traditional use of a yard, you know what I'm saying, like they're kind of done with that. So they're not, you know, they may put a few tables and chairs out on their patio, but they're not putting up swing sets or picnic tables or whatever. And so those community areas help to supplement that as well. You know, there are places where they can meet and gather.
In our community in Rutland, we have pickleball courts going in. We're looking at that for here also.
I was gonna suggest that.
I don't know how much we play, but it's.
That's the,
We also have, we have the luxury of having some gazebos in Rutland. And again, we'd love to do all that here. It's early in the stages, and of course, we're hoping.
What it is, like pocket gazebos in different areas, so when they
Just
picnics. things-
small area to
Yeah.
Correct.
congregate with.
Then at the clubhouse, we have a large gazebo for any kind of events that are going on.
It's like my brother's house in California, slab, front door was the garage door. You had to walk around
Oh, I've seen
to get into the side of the house to get into the front door.
We look at those designs.
The one thing we did do on our revision, our revised plan, was we made it a little bit wider. Right, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
So,
'cause the garage is
which,
too narrow.
yeah, which we're excited about.
That's a wise thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of handicap accessibility considerations as well.
I appreciate the inclusion of 2-car, 1-car garages somewhere
Yeah.
in between there, because, I mean, there are plenty of areas in Gardner where there's street parking on both sides, and
Right.
especially for people who would be the ones as the primary owners of these units, having the full 28 feet, you know, either included in the, you know, if we were to move forward, or approval conditions, or put forward by the HOA as no street parking, you know, would be kind of, I think, paramount for the users. So appreciate you having that, as well as it looks like plenty of driveway space
Yes,
outside of the existing
yeah.
proposed garages.
That's for guests to park in.
That's what we
That's
work on
part of
next
the
is
intent,
pocket
is
parking.
to eliminate the need for, depending on who the company is, to be walking.
As we said something at the meeting, somebody said they didn't want any parking on the street because of the width of the road.
Right.
Anything else, guys?
Again, Mr. Chairman, just one quick thing. I mean, I like the layout. The layout is, you know, it's nice. The house, the pictures there, we saw it. They're nice, nice homes. I have nothing against the homes. Again, like the director mentioned and I mentioned, we're gonna have a tough time selling this many houses on this lot. It's gonna be a tough battle, I think. I think it's just too many. They're too condensed, they're too close to each other. You can go back to California, I know we're not California, or what, it doesn't make a difference, North Carolina, California. When one house catches on fire, they all go. They're that close. So that's something we have to be concerned about also. So that's my only concern, that it just, these things are just too close together. It's proven that it doesn't work in other states. Then the insurance just gets up and walks away, and the people are stranded with a bill that they can't afford. Florida and all that other stuff too. So again, if the layout, the way the roads are, the way everything's situated, that's fine. But there's just too many houses in between every single one of them.
Okay.
And like I said, the director mentioned the same thing. It might be a tough sell. I'm not too sure if you want to come back with a different plan for us to take a look at before we go in. I don't know. That's my, so.
I would say this at the same time, and, you know, in my experience, I have only been here for 6 months, but in that time I have had multiple people come to my office, elderly people looking for senior housing in Gardner. So there is a big need for it. So I just wanted to relay that. I do appreciate, this is my first time actually having an over 55 community presented in front of me, and to have people come to my office and me, you know, exchange information and say, you know, take a look at upcoming meetings, you know, for any developments that, you know, might be applicable for you know, over 55 developments. So I am thankful that this is something that's come in front of us for meeting that need in
Yes.
Gardner.
I think
And
what's,
I look forward to seeing how that,
and I think what's also helpful to a community, although this may appear to be too dense, what it does allow is for residents of the community that have lived here
To have a place to live.
stay here, and when a Gardner resident sells their home in Gardner and moves to over 55, it then makes a home available to a younger couple who might be starting out. So it'll help your housing stock in different ways, not just by serving the over 55, but it will also free up other housing stock within the community for other community residents that may have been raised here in Gardner and want to try to find a home but can't because they want to raise their family here as well. So it'll present multiple benefits to the community.
I hear what you're saying, it is important, but I too am concerned about the density.
We understand the nature, yes. We anticipate that the density issue will be questioned and raised, but I believe with a thorough review and with the opportunity to present the positive aspects that this will have for the city of Gardner, I think that the neighborhoods, the residents, will be very comfortable with the proposal, and we should be able to reach,
Are these the type of buildings they're building in Rutland? Is that what you said?
Exactly.
yes,
Exactly?
yes.
And just by curiosity, what are they going for?
In Rutland,
Yeah, each building.
um,
What are they starting point?
I think it's in the 480 is the base price,
Really?
480, 488.
Just one section?
Yeah.
Oh,
And the real estate market, there's just such an incredible demand. There's not enough housing for over 55 residents, for people starting out, for people trying to upgrade. It's a tough marketplace, but that's what the base price is in Rutland.
I watched the real estate transfers for the city. And just for, I do it just out of curiosity, and I can't believe the prices that some of those buildings are being sold for.
Yeah.
I mean, I may be out of touch with that. I've been in my home for 60 years, so.
Well, I've always, I've done this for a few years, and in order for, it's very difficult to propose this type of a development.
I would say,
It's a significant investment of time, but more importantly, of financial resources. The cost of building, and no one's ever felt bad for an attorney, and no one's ever felt bad for a developer. But what I will tell you is, the cost to build a single-family home, a two-family home, any type of residential or commercial structure, has quadrupled. And the pricing, it's very difficult. Land prices have increased, materials have increased, everything's increased. That's reflected, unfortunately, in the prices, and you can see the constraints on how it affects affordability for people. But what we're finding is that there is a great demand for this type of housing. The market seems to be functioning in the sense that people are able to sell their homes, purchase this home, make a home available for a younger couple. So it does work. There's a little bit of a track record. I think there'll be more experience as we go along. But I'm confident that as we go through the process, you'll see that this is a very good proposal for the community.
have you thought about 3D printing homes? They're doing it down south.
I don't think Ron will do 3D homes.
You can barely run a regular printer.
He's old school, so.
Well,
He
I'm
believes
just
in
saying,
the- he
it's,
believes in the real construction.
it's using the technology and you could print them faster and get them done faster. I don't know if it's cheaper or if
It's too scary for me to look into it.
You know, it'll be a very good product. It won't be a manufactured home. It won't be, it'll be a well-constructed,
be a stick
traditional
home.
home,
A
yes.
stick home.
Another,
This be done in phases?
probably,
Yes.
probably. That's what we have three phases, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
We have three phases in Rutland, and we're only in phase one right at the moment.
phase one.
But what I was gonna say is we have a lot of people who have moved away from Rutland are now coming back because of our project, because they still have their family here.
Yeah,
We're finding that they're coming back from Florida, they're coming back from Maine and.
yeah, we have people that
And,
left and that are coming back.
yeah, and then I get to hear the stories of the town when they grew up there. So that's kind of what I'm hoping something like that.
Okay,
Okay?
if nothing else, thank you very much.
Thank you. We appreciate it. We look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Now we go to our regular business.
I never got it back.
There was one on your desk.
I didn't get it all. It's all right, I got this.
Okay. We did that.
Move on to the items we discussed last
2-1.
night,
2-1? No, the other,
the hearings we had.
yeah.
I'll send you an email so you have my contact.
Thank you very much. Make sure you have my contact card or something.
2.2.
Definitive site, multifamily. That's what we just did. On the floodplain delivery overlay, do you have Bob, do you have a map to show what that is that covers the city or
They're available on the city's website, on the engineering page.
engineering?
I don't have it. The firm map updates are a series of 14 different panels that cover the entire city.
Yeah,
So it's kind of difficult on a single map. We do have that, but I don't have that with me tonight. I would recommend if you want to see how they're changing, you look at them online. On the engineering website, not only for the board, but for anybody who's listening, FEMA has a convenient website that you can see the before and after, just by scrolling back and forth on a page where, you know, it's the old, you bring the slider across and it's the new, so you can really see where they're changing. My experience looking at them, there aren't any very large changes for Gardner. It's lots of, I think, just, the floodplain is more finely tuned at this point based on FEMA's data. So there's areas where there's slight increases, but I think for the most part, I saw more decreases in floodplain. Some areas gone completely.
really?
A couple of areas in unpopulated, undeveloped areas where there's new floodplain, but I forget they were out, or I forget where they were, but they were out on either city land or other undeveloped property. But for the most part, I don't anticipate that people are gonna have problems with it. But if you do wanna see it, it's relatively easy to look at online. If you wanted to stop at the office, I can certainly show you. The paper maps are I have at my office.
I'll probably do it if I can find some time to do that. I can look at the computer just as well.
They're all there in a couple of different, I have them there individually as well as a single file that has all of them together, so that takes a long time to load on a computer. But the individual ones, they're compressed a little bit so they download much quicker. Sometimes it's hard to get your bearings when you're looking at the individual panels.
My time with FEMA, I recall that states, cities, and towns were continually clamoring for the update of the floodplain maps. And some of the more progressive states, like the Midwest, out west, down south, FEMA was able to digitize the floodplains, and up here in the Northeast, all they had was this. And they were old, and so now I don't know, we have the privilege or the honor to have digitized floodplains. So I appreciate your comments about some of the floodplain areas have gone away or have significantly shrunk, which to me, if I interpret it correctly, it's a benefit to the homeowner. So it would encompass those homeowners that probably are aware of their property being edged, being in a floodplain, to relook at their current status. They may be able to get rid of flood insurance. In some cases.
It's a possibility.
In some cases.
I wouldn't say there's gonna be a lot of those, but I think if you were close or have floodplain on your property, you behoove you to look at it again.
I just wanted to convey that to the public.
Yep.
And it would certainly be to their benefit to make sure they do that for their own pocketbook. So, and some are probably the other way. Some of the areas are probably getting larger.
I'm sure there are some.
But you're not saying there are many,
It didn't appear that there were many, no.
but you gotta look and see.
You have to look and see.
That's just what I want to get. So do we want to, I guess, do we want to take time of our own to go down to Bob's office and look? Or do we just take his word?
This has been something that
Well-
Rob, Eric,
Yeah.
and
if you were
myself have
involved in it.
all looked at, and
Did you guys have a hearing on
we
it
have
last
already
night?
had a hearing.
Yeah.
Yes, we
Yeah, we
had a
did
hearing with
yesterday.
city
How
council.
did-
And
how
the
did that
public
go?
hearing
I was
yesterday.
I was absent yesterday, so I didn't catch it.
We had a public hearing.
Yeah.
So
And this is
what we
something,
need to do tonight is decide whether to make a recommendation one way or the other. Well, we have to. We don't have a choice.
There's a time constraint involved with
There's
this.
a time constraint. We have to get it done.
And again, as a reminder, the zoning amendment change isn't a typical zoning amendment where you're either adding a new zone or adjusting a zone or changing frontage or area.
It's an overall,
It's an overall, it's the floodplain overlay protection district, and simply the amendment is bookkeeping to make our current ordinance comply with the state model, which is based on FEMA's recommendations for protecting the floodplain. And so it's literally changing some definitions, fine tuning some of the language, correcting addresses for FEMA, adding a floodplain coordinator for the city. There's really nothing that changes what you can and can't do in the floodplain. In fact, it probably makes it clearer and, references to correct building codes, things like that. It doesn't change the uses within it. So as a zoning amendment, it's not a typical zoning amendment.
It's also something we kind of have to do in order to stay compliant with NFIP requirements, because if we fall out of compliance with the National Flood Insurance Program,
Lose money.
then property owners within the municipality lose the ability to get
This is-
insurance through that program.
Housekeeping more than anything else.
Yeah. And it's, everybody is going through it right now, because, most of Worcester County is getting map updates, so all the communities in both the Nashua River watershed and Blackstone River watershed are going through this at the
Sure.
moment.
so I guess I need a motion to accept the floodplain plan as presented,
We gotta go
The amendment to the
recommend.
zoning,
amendments to the
floodplain
zoning.
overlay protection district.
You said it.
Again, Rob?
We would be looking for you to make a recommendation to approve or deny the zoning amendment for the floodplain overlay protection district.
Floodplain
I make a,
to that.
that we recommend the, as what Rob just described, but the floodplain, bring it up to speed. The new, bring it back to the council, we recommend it.
I'm gonna second that.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. There are no nays, all ayes. Passed.
Make the recommendation. Next is the historical preservation.
Oh, yeah, the other one is the preservation project.
Central Street.
Any further discussion? Go ahead. You
After
wanna say
hearing the presentation again last night for the historical preservation project for Central Street, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend to the city council to adopt the preservation project
historic project.
zoning change,
Zoning amendment
Zoning amendment.
I forget, zoning amendment,
as presented.
I'm gonna second that.
as presented.
Any further discussion? Any discussions of, questions on you, because you weren't there last night?
No questions. I remember the presentation that we got when the attorney came in to speak with us, and I was supportive of it then and still feel that way, so I'm good.
I mentioned to the president last night, I said to him, I says, this is one thing that makes sense. And he says, why didn't you get up and say that? I said, well. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? There are no nays. So we make that a recommendation as well.
Recommendation. And then in front of everyone is the referral from Christine Tree in regards to the zoning district designation for the existing parcel lying on the easterly side of Mass 101, Eastern Gardner, from the commercial 2 zoning district to the industrial 1 zoning district with Summit Solar Overlay. This is not something that's been in front of you all prior to this meeting, and this piece of new business is specifically to present this and for us to schedule the joint public hearing with the city council. So it's similar to fashion to last night. Again, this isn't for us to discuss more, just for us to schedule when to host that
Okay.
joint meeting.
Can I make a motion that you've talked to the city council president?
We
So-
deferred already, and June 7th
June
was
7th.
the day that worked, because we wouldn't be able to
July
get,
7th.
July 7th, thank you. That was determined because we need to have 2 weeks of publication time following this meeting on the 10th with the Gardner News. We wouldn't be able to get a publication prior to next Tuesday, just because we wouldn't be able to get one this week and they don't publish on Mondays.
Yeah,
So the 30th would not then be 2 weeks following the first publication. So we had to defer to the July 7th date, just to give you a context of our thoughts behind that. But that was the agreed upon date between myself, city council, and Attorney Tree.
You want me to include that in the motion for the 7th?
No, you can just say,
To the house.
recommend the schedule of the public hearing for July 7th.
okay.
Recommend a joint public hearing with the city council in regard to Diamond Drive.
Motion,
Second.
okay. Any further discussion? None. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're all ayes, so there's no nays. Next one is the zoning district to the industrial 1 zoning district with
That's the full,
summer solar overview,
That's it.
overlay.
that was
That was it?
That was this. Yep.
Oh.
Yep.
This thing?
Yep.
That was it? Okay. So that's it. Any other announcements or?
So it's that gentleman there.
I don't have to be, I'm not on the agenda, I just have questions on what I can do with my property.
And we can take that after the meeting. It's not inclusive on the
That's okay.
agenda,
Yeah.
so.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
Okay.
I have some paper in the draft.